They gave me like multiple ones. You know that? Like walking around. And people were like, oh.
Be like my sister.
If you're all
She was good job. But she was sitting there and she ran into she was like, man.
Now I can sit back here and watch what you guys do on the other side of life. Aha! Catch up to you, Alaka. What?
I can already do that. I don't need to cover it. It's not. When you eat
Is when it's
what happened?
you know Jesus.
Man, I wish I had like a chair right here. But it would hurt so bad.
It's like his body shape.
All right. So I'm Mr. Huntsman, and I'm actually really excited to be in a chemistry class. Usually I'm in biology classes because that's my major, but actually my minor takes in chemistry. So you might be asking, why are you coming to teach our chemistry class if your major is not chemistry? What I love to think about is, a lot of my chemistry teachers have talked about this, that biology is basically chemistry. Okay? If you, next year, as a sophomore, you'll start talking about biology. And biology is simply understanding how the chemicals in the body interact to do everything they do. It's really fun. It's the same elements on the periodic table. It's the same type of bonding. It's all the same stuff, except in the body, in life, in organisms. So it's really fun. But what also is kind of fun, we can get this going, is I did the exact same project that, is this, no, that's not that.
Yeah, that's. Do you need to pull that down?
Is this a white?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Huh?
I just saw this part.
Yeah, just and then you can hook it on that little hook that's right there by your hand. There you go.
First is the art.
Do you need that back on?
Yes, we need this. Reaching for
Wow, okay. Hey, it's on.
You're a genius. All this high-tech instruments. All right. So I actually really struggled. Maybe some of you guys struggled when you came up with ideas to do for this. I couldn't think of things. I kept thinking of experiments that I need lots of equipment and lots of time and studies to do. I was like, what can I do that's simple, that I can do at my house, that can show a good scientific principle? And so I have a son. I have a little 1-year-old boy. And right now he is obsessed with any type of ball. Okay, he walks around and he sees a globe. He's like, ball? No, we can't play with that. Okay, and so I decided to make bouncy balls. I thought it would be a good, cheap way to be a good dad and to make it. So I found a recipe.
Oh, it's over at the computer, John.
Oh, now
that's
it's
where.
over here.
Just aim it to the computer.
Okay. There you go. I found a recipe online for bouncy balls. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. It's glue, Borax, which I had to look up what it was. It's basically a laundry detergent helper. You add into your laundry detergent to try to boost it. Cornstarch and water was the recipe. You also said you could add food coloring, but I didn't have any food coloring, so I actually just made white bouncy balls, which is kind of boring. Okay, but I looked at this, and I was like, okay, how can I make a better bouncy ball? I don't want just a good bouncy ball, I want a really good bouncy ball. So I looked at it, I was like, okay, borax, that's a powder, okay, that probably is, if I add more powder, it's probably not going to help it to bounce. Same with cornstarch, it's a powder, probably not going to help it bounce. Water, it's water. So I said glue. Glue is going to be what I try to add more of to see if it helps it to bounce. Okay, so if we go,
John, do you want these lights in the front out so they can see a little bit better?
if it helps them, yes.
Will it still record back there for you? Is that good?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So my hypothesis was, as I increase the amount of glue used in the recipe, the balance of the ball will increase. Okay, so if I add more glue, it'll be more bouncy. And how I measured this, okay, so here's my T-form that you've been using. Okay, so my control is right here, the 1 teaspoon that the recipe called for. Then I added a half teaspoon and a whole teaspoon extra to see what it would do. Okay, everything else was the same, the other ingredients were the exact same. How I combined the ingredients as far as mixing and rolling and all those things were the exact same. And then as I tested it, I dropped it from the same height. So if you see right here, I have a ruler. I would raise the ball up to 6 inches and then drop it on the table and see where it bounced and try to, as best as I could, estimate where it bounced and recorded that. All right, behind me. Okay, so this is what I got. I did 3 trials, 3 measurements for each ball. And so here's my control, my 1 tablespoon, sorry I didn't say teaspoon, tablespoon, that's important. Okay, and then the height, these are in inches. And then I put average right here. Okay, the same with the 2 other balls. Okay, and then I made a nifty chart. Okay, as scientists we love charts, right? We love to be visual. Okay, so here is glue increasing, and here is the height increasing. So what do you see from that chart? You can raise your hand and give me an observation. The more glue, the less bounce. Okay, what was my hypothesis? The opposite, that the more glue, the more bounce. Okay? So my hypothesis was not correct. Increasing the glue did not increase the bounce of the ball. Alright? So, we can leave that on, but I'm just going to turn the lights on. Oh, that didn't work.
The 2 on the right, John.
There we go.
There you go.
Alright. So, let's think about this. Let's give some explanation for why my hypothesis didn't work. Who has any ideas? Why did adding more glue not make it bounce as much?
Because glue is a solid and it's made to hold it together, not like release stuff. So when it bounces, it absorbs it all.
Okay. So it could have absorbed the energy of the bounce. That's a really good point. It's mainly the fused together. And so maybe I had a little bit of faulty reasoning. I was saying, okay, glue is sticky, therefore bouncy, so I should add more of it. Whereas basically it's just sticking things together. Excellent. Okay, so sometimes that's how our hypotheses are, is we just weren't thinking about it quite right, or we were making assumptions. My assumption was that glue would bounce, right? That was faulty, right? Okay, what's also interesting is I didn't include it on the slides, but the first time I tried to make the bouncy ball, I actually messed up. I added twice as much borax as I was supposed to. And so that was also kind of a test. If I wanted to test borax, that I had what the recipe called for, and then I had one with extra borax. And what's interesting is the borax, actually, adding more borax actually did a lot better than adding more glue. And so, with our, see if I can do this. Oh,
Not
okay.
moving, huh?
No, that's okay. Where was I going? All this technology is confounding me. More glue, more borax. Oh, and so a lot of the time when we do experiments, okay, and they either didn't turn out how we expected, or maybe as we were doing them we thought of ways we could have done them better, we have to adjust our experiments. And I know you didn't see everything that I did, obviously, in the experiment. I tried to kind of summarize for you. But I want you to turn, we're going to do partners. And so it's actually kind of easy because most of our rows are equal. So we're just going to turn, these two rows are going to turn to each other. It's 5 and 6. So we're going to, these two rows are going to turn to each other and you're going to be with the two behind you. And then you're going to turn to each other in pairs, okay? And what you're going to discuss with your partners is what could I have done better or made sure I did to make my experiment successful. Okay? So, who can say back to me what you're doing? What are you discussing with your partner? How I could have made my experiment better. Okay, so now that I've done it, what could I do if I did it again, or what could I go back and do to make mine better? Okay? It's just going to take 45 seconds or so, okay, to discuss, and then we'll bring you back together. Okay? Go.
Hey, John, if you want, you could show them.
Okay.
Do you think maybe helium? So here's like found a way to like roll rock and then tie it out.
Show them and they might
Right? That's a good idea. That's a good idea, right? It's like have a layer of bouncy ball stuff and then inside of a helium.
All right, let's come back together.
So
Who
it's
had
like
some ideas for
but
me?
you still got to wait.
do it that way.
How could I have done it better? Okay, you're discussing. Okay, so I could have done more background. What would that help me do? What would that research help me do? Yeah. Okay. So I could have had a better idea of what I should increase in the recipe, or how could I adjust the recipe to increase the bounce of the ball. With the glue, I was just kind of making a guess, right? Okay, and that's not a good hypothesis. Okay. One of my college professors, in particular, he always brings up that a hypothesis is not a guess. Okay, a hypothesis is based upon good research. Okay. So what we think is going to happen. Okay, I was doing a bad hypothesis and kind of just guess. Okay. What else? Any other ideas?
You might have changed the types of glue.
Okay, so making sure I use the same glue would be important. Yeah. Okay, so making sure the ingredients are not only glue and cornstarch, but the same brand, the same exact same substance. Okay. Mr. Hayes had a box of this back there. Okay, this is borax. I don't know if you've seen it at home, but it says that it's made out of. Okay, I'm kind of. Don't ingest it. It's good.
I think it says contains or something like that, John, in front of it. Contains sodium tetraborate decahydrate.
That's what it contains.
Science words.
Okay, so that's what borax is. Okay, it's basically a powder like laundry detergent. Okay, and so another reason, those were good ways that we can perfect the experience, or not perfect, because nothing's ever perfect, right? It's like how we could make the experiment better. Another thing that I noticed as I did it is I was actually doing it right before I came to your class on Wednesday. And so I was really hurrying to get through it because I was making these bouncy balls. I couldn't just leave the ingredients half stirred or half made. And so what I did is I poured all the ingredients except the glue into 3 glasses at once to mix. Okay? And then I put the glue in the first one, mixed it all up, made the ball, set it aside. Then I put glue in the second one, mixed it all up, set it aside. And then the third one. What was wrong with that? How so?
You put all the ingredients in the same.
I didn't put them in at the same time or in the same intervals, right? This glue was put in 30 seconds after the other ingredients. This one was put in 2 minutes, and this one 4 or 5 minutes, right? How could that affected my experiment? Have you ever helped your mom make gravy? Or seen her make gravy? Cornstarch is the major ingredient to thicken it, right? Okay, and you have to let the gravy sit to thicken. So if I'm letting my ingredients with cornstarch sit, it's going to thicken, whereas my other cups weren't. Okay? And so as scientists, okay, with your experiments, it's so important that we control every possible variable that you can. Okay? If I was doing really good science, I'd have a stopwatch, right? And say, okay, it was between this and this. I stirred it this many times, okay, or for this long, okay, and having that very precise to make sure my experiments were based upon the glue and not upon the cornstarch sitting longer. Maybe the cornstarch sitting longer made it more dense and harder to balance. So what we're going to do now, okay, we're going to do two things. Okay, you're going to work with your partners again. And I don't know, this is something I probably should have asked before I came to class, but do you have your hypothesis